Guys here and see me on YouTube. Okay, you can start whenever you're ready, inshallah. Everything is strained. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Let me cut my video off. Okay, now there you go.
Can I start now?
Yes, you can go ahead and start, inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Hello everyone. This is one of our new episodes of the holy names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As you know, we have been covering several names, not only on the surface level, but we try our best to dig deeper into understanding the correlation of those names in our lives, how they can actually, understanding of those names, how they can impact our understanding of ourselves, understanding of life in general, understanding of the purpose of our existence in this life, and how we can benefit as much as we can from those names in our daily lives. We also try our best to throw some light on Sayyidina Muhammad's life and how it was also a reflection of his very deep understanding and profound understanding of those names. So he is actually the implementation of those names in our human life. All right, so for today, we'll be tackling this wonderful, wonderful name, Al Qarib, and that is the close or the near, and Al Mujib, the answer, the one who answers our prayers. I'm sure you are just as excited as I am, going into more depth about that name and how beautiful it is, and the magic it does to our lives in general. All right, so let's start. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm going to share the screen for you to actually take a look at the presentation. Bismillah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. All right, so here, as you can see, is Al Qarib Al Mujib. So Al Qarib Al Mujib, that is, he is actually the closer to you than yourself. See the beauty of the name. So closer to you than yourself. He is the one who knows you better than you know yourself. He is the only one who is willing and inviting to meet with you several times a day, something that does not happen from any other person in your life. I mean, if you go to even to your dearest, whether they are your parents or your kids, and you try and talk to them, deeply on a deeper level, and you discuss things with them, or you complain about something or whatever. Imagine doing this 5 times a day on daily basis. No wonder they would actually be so bored. They will be reluctant at a certain point, no matter how dear you are to any of them. But this is not the case with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's always inviting. He's always there to hear our complaints, to listen to our prayers. He's always there. He's always there. And we know that he doesn't need our words for him to know. He is the all-knower. And yet, he knows very well that language is a connection. It is actually a one means of connection that he has created for humans. So he is giving us this chance to open up and to address him using language. All right. So when we talk about Qarib, the close, we're also talking about the giver, because when we are seeking his closeness, we are actually seeking something, either a physical thing, a material thing, a spiritual thing. There's always something that we are asking for. So this is actually also an implementation of the giver, the name the giver. So loved ones serve as channels of divine compassion. That's a very profound notion. I'd like to pause here for a while. So loved ones that we find in our lives, we need to know that they do not exist in our lives for their own sake. They are there as channels of divine compassion, reminding us that the ultimate source of our blessings is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whose presence fills the void of absence. I would like you very much to contemplate on that slide. Do not just, read it lightly. Think about it again, because oftentimes we get so attached to the people, to those channels, not seeing that they are channels. We see them for as real, as we get attached to them, and we forget that they are there in our lives as channels. So instead of seeing through them, we only see them, and therefore they can change from being channels to being an obstacle to our relationship with God subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, some people in our lives, or maybe possessions, or our kids, or our partners, we may be so in love, so attached to the extent that we don't see them as channels anymore, when actually those whoever we love in our lives, those people are actually made and created to remind us of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of that Allah is the ultimate source of our blessings. All right. From that, we move on to the near one. So Allah's nearness transcends physical distance. It embodies knowledge, mercy, watchfulness. He knows our whispers and dispels our loneliness with his profound presence. So we need to take a moment to picture the person who feels closest to your heart. Someone who has witnessed your joys and struggles, understands your deepest thoughts, and whose counsel you trust without question. Now, this human connection brings warmth, safety, longing. Yet, despite the beauty of these gifts, human bonds are imperfect. They are limited by physical distance, emotional strain, and the complexity of life's challenges. So, against that backdrop, Allah's closeness stands unchanging and infinite, a divine source of companionship beyond all earthly ties. And I need to pause here for a second, because one reason why God subhanahu wa ta'ala may actually get you to suffer from a certain relationship, a relationship that you thought would be everlasting, a relationship that you thought would be the source of all happiness, the source of all serenity, and all of a sudden things change and it becomes the source of pain and suffering. And you wonder, why did this happen? One of the reasons might be that you were too attached to see the divine light through that person, too attached to only be blinded by your love and closeness to that person, to the extent that you could not see beyond that. So what happens eventually is that if God really wants a wake-up call for you, what would happen would be that he would, somehow something would happen that would draw you farther from that person. A relationship may end. Maybe the person would be, will have no role to play in your life anymore. Maybe you will lose him one way or another. And it's all because of that. One of the reasons is it's a wake-up call. It's just like he's telling you, see, that person that you were attached to is transient. It is only temporary. But I, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am the everlasting. I am the only constant in your life. So that is a very important notion that you need to remember if you ever come across something like losing a loved one somehow, some reason. All right. And from that, we come to see that Al Mujib, and that's the second name, and the responsive. So Allah's responsiveness assures us that He hears every plea and prayer. His divine wisdom offers guidance and comfort, teaching us to trust in His timing. Again, His timing, not ours. So the idea of us conceiving or perceiving God as responsive, you may think that you are conditioning this relationship in a way that you expect him to respond at your time frame, which is never the case, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our God. We are the servants of God. So we have no say as to when He is going to respond or the way He's going to respond to our prayers, if at all. But some prayers may not be what we actually need. And that is why we are, sometimes we are rash, we go into rash decisions, or we don't have a full sight of things. He is the one who knows it all. So we need to trust Him. And that is why it is very important that we understand, believe, and go deep into the names and the implications of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we fully trust that He is the all-knower, then we will leave it up to Him to decide when to respond, the way to respond, and if to respond in the way that we want at all or not. The near one. Again, Allah's closeness surpasses all worldly closeness. The Quran assures us He is more intimate and a vein vital to life itself. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says we are closer to Him than His jugular vein. So this denotes a nearness encompassing full knowledge, complete presence, and watchful care over our souls. So unlike human proximity bound by space and time, Allah's nearness is a divine attribute reflecting His complete awareness of what lies hidden in our hearts and minds. And this accesses the believer with a profound spiritual sanctuary where no loneliness or despair can reside. So let me rephrase this again. So the more you believe in His closeness, the more you believe that He is the near, the close, you will definitely feel this kind of comfort and peace within you, right? This proximity that surpasses time and place is actually a divine closeness that would be reflected in this kind of serenity. No matter what happens, no matter what you go through in life, no matter the difficulties that you experience, knowing that He is there, that He witnesses this, that He is the creator of whatever circumstances you're going through, whether you see it as good or bad, you believe in His hikmah, in His wisdom, and you leave it up to Him to do whatever He sees fit to you. Now, again, we have to have faith in response, as I said. So trusting in Allah's responsiveness transforms our spiritual journey altogether. So every prayer, spoken or unspoken, is a testament to His ever-present compassion and understanding. But again, we have to surrender to His wisdom. We have to surrender to His timing and His knowing that He knows what is best for us and the best way to respond. Beyond nearness, Allah is Al Mujib, the responder to every heartfelt call. So He listens with perfect hearing and perfect understanding, even when our words fail or are held deep within our hearts. His responses are shaped by wisdom and mercy, sometimes immediate, sometimes delayed, yet always perfectly timed and tailored for our ultimate good. So often He answers before the prayer is uttered, providing grace beyond our request or expectation. So again, this is the idea of when. The when is up to Him. We are not to set conditions to Allah. And even though we don't really set those conditions verbally, many times we find that these conditions are there residing in our heart. We don't really say it out loud out of respect to God subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we do have that in our hearts. It's like, God, please, I need that as soon as possible. God, please, I answer my prayers by tomorrow, let's say. right? Even if you don't utter it, it's in your heart, and God is a witness to your heart. He knows what's going on there. He knows what is inside your mind, and you need to regulate that. Right, so because you really need to be a believer, and once you are a true believer, you truly believe in His name, all knower. All right, so you leave it for Him. You leave it for Him to decide when and how. This point, feeling distant. Now, if He's that close, why do I feel distant sometimes? So this is an illusion. The illusion of distance from Allah is often self-created. Trials can serve as divine invitations to draw nearer, reminding us of His constant presence. Now, but I want to comment here on something. Sometimes you feel distant because you remember the time when you experienced closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You were so close, maybe you enjoyed the time that you spent in isolation in your room, for example, praying and opening your heart and mind to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you felt that that link, that connection, and you were so spiritually connected to Him. And then few days, few years maybe after that, things change, your heart changes, the way you feel changes, and that would be what makes you feel distant. But then again, if that happens, you need to remember two things. Number one, there's nothing constant in life. Life is all about change. So you need to accept the closeness, you need to accept the distance, if such a thing is actually true. And if we assume that it is true that you're distant, maybe because you committed certain sins you did not repent for, or maybe because you accumulated certain layers that would be like obstacles in your heart towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It could be like, for example, some kind of evil thoughts or feelings, like you feel like envy, for instance, you feel jealousy, for example, which is again very human, but you need to be aware of yourself so that you would quickly cleanse your heart from that. But what if you didn't and things started to accumulate? Then that a feeling of distance would happen. But even if you actually felt distant, and let us assume that this distance is true, well, the good news is nothing stays the same. Life is all about change. So if you're feeling distant now, then that is a sign that you will be brought back closer to God subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, so if you lose any of the joys or the pleasures or the good times that you used to experience with Allah, it doesn't mean that this is how it will be forever. It just means that, okay, why not try again? Why not exert some effort to bring yourself back to the way you were before? It's never too late. The door is never closed. Moving on. The divine timing, as we said, so delay is not denial, but a profound expression of wisdom. Allah grants, replaces, or reserves gifts for the hereafter, reminding us of His perfect plan. And then we come to the concept of hidden mercy. So unanswered prayers refine the soul, teaching patience and trust. Every supplication is a communion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nurturing a deeper connection beyond mere requests. Again, nurturing a deeper connection beyond mere requests, because our relationship with God subhanahu wa ta'ala is all about requests and answers to requests. What kind of relationship is that? All right, so this is not how things should be. You should actually be worshiping God because He is God, regardless whether He gives or does not give whatever you want. So again, it should surpass this level of expectation of a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you need to elevate this kind of relationship to a level where you would be enjoying worshiping Him even without a word of request. All right, so that is another level in your spiritual journey with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The blessing of confident supplication. Now, our beloved Prophet ﷺ invites us to ask Allah decisively, without doubt or hesitation, embracing full trust in His mercy and power. So this spiritual certainty grows as we acknowledge Allah by His names, the all-hearing, the all-knowing, the most merciful, the Almighty. So our trusting supplications open the doors for greater blessings and spiritual elevation. So alongside the spiritual reliance, we responsibly engage with the means Allah provides, blending efforts with faithful hope to achieve what He wills, right? What He wills. That is what you always have to bear in mind. What is it that He wants, not only what I want, right? Because it is not actually a two-sided kind of relationship. You just have to, again, make your best to elevate this relationship to the status where you only see what is it that He wants of me, not vice versa. There are several prophetic stories that illuminates a divine nearness. Like for example, the story of Prophet Ayub. Job. Now, he despite long suffering and loss, he remained patient and hopeful, addressing Allah by His majestic names until relief and abundance returned. And this teaches that steadfast faith in hardship brings divine mercy richer than relief alone. So imagine a prophet who is supposed to be, of course, the closest of all humans to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yet he suffered a very long time of several illnesses and diseases. And yet he never, he never winced. He never went astray. He never went into despair. He had all kinds of faith and hope that it is God's timing, and he was waiting for that timing with all the patience that you can imagine. And so it was. Things were relieved. The disease was relieved, and he actually enjoyed a good part of his life. Another example is Prophet Yunus. So in despair, swallowed by darkness, the double darkness, the darkness of the whale's belly, and also the darkness of the ocean. And yet he called out, "There is no God but you. Glory be to you. I was wrong. La ilaha illa ant subhanak inni kuntu min al-zalimin." And who is saying I was wrong? A prophet, for God's sake. A prophet that we all know that prophets, they're flawless. And yet he saw what he did as a wrongdoing. And that is out of humility. So his sincere repentance brought salvation. And only by saying those words, God has actually elevated and lifted the kind of suffering that he was in. And that shows that even in deepest distress, turning to Allah invites hope and rescue. The last example is Prophet Zechariah. And again, with humility and longing, he prayed for a child despite old age, trusting Allah's timing and mercy. And his story inspires hope that divine gifts come beyond worldly limitations when sought with sincerity, right? So, and don't stop here and say things like, all right, this is a miracle, and miracles are only bound to prophets. Well, actually, guess what? No, miracles actually happen, all right? Not only to prophets, but even to normal people, regular people. And it happens, but in different ways. It doesn't have to be as, stunning as that. It won't be like, dividing the sea for Moses, for example, but it can happen on a very personal, minute kind of level where you can actually see it in your life. Sometimes certain, I don't believe in coincidences because everything happens, with a timely manner. But again, if you witness your life as a testament of Allah's names, you will definitely see those miracles, right? You may, for example, find that God has paved a way that you never thought would be paved. You may find that you were given a certain rizq, all right, that he provided you with things that you never thought you would be provided with. He may change certain turns in your life that you never ever imagined that such a path would be taken, and so on and so forth. On a very personal level, you may find your own miracles happening in a way that would get you to see life differently, see God differently, see yourself differently even. It's all about opening up your eyes, see what is happening with a new way, and not to, get into this trap of getting accustomed to things the way they are. Always have this kind of curiosity and see things from different perspectives. Now, after talking about feeling distant and saying that feeling distant, or the fact that you're distant, is an illusion. It's not a fact at all. It is actually an illusion. Now, overcoming feelings of distance from Allah can come in different ways. So one of the things is doubts about worthiness and misconceptions that closeness is reserved for the pious alone. That's a very, very important notion here, right? So we need to combat that feeling. Or the misconception that the ones who are close are the only ones are only the ones who are pious, right? The flawless, the prophets, and anyone close to prophets are the closest to God. Well, even though this is partially true, of course, the prophets are the dearest and the ones that hold the most magnificent level of closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that does not mean that for you to be a human being, a normal human being with flaws and mistakes and sins, that this does not qualify you as a servant who can be actually close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the reasons that could make you feel this way is the effects of sin, neglect, or arrogance causing separation through Allah, though Allah remains near. So Allah is always near. Allah is always there. But it is us, okay, our deeds, our hearts, our minds, what drew us closer to Him or farther. Something else that can cause this feeling is impatience when prayers are unanswered or delayed, and forgetting divine wisdom and timing. Another thing is such feelings call us to sincere reflection. Now, when you start feeling distant, when you start feeling or doubting that you're a person worthy of this love, worthy of His care, what you really need to know is that these are all signals. They are there to signal something that you need to take time for sincere reflection and contemplation. All right. So it's not there just for you to go into despair, but it is there to make you reconsider and recalculate the whole situation. How is it that I can draw myself closer to Him? And you'll be surprised how that very, very small things can have huge impact. Just for example, by getting yourself to overcome this tendency to judge others, for example, all right? And how this kind of judgment over others would actually create this kind of kibr, pride, all right? And that in itself is an obstacle. It's a layer, a very heavy layer that you'll be engraving in your heart. And definitely the outcome would be that you feel distant because you went away from that light. So again, if you ever feel distant, you have to tell yourself two things. Number one, being distant from Allah is a misconception. It is not true. Allah is always there. He is always very close. It could be that my heart is what is drifting away. So I need to, number two, you need to pause, reconsider, and be practical about that, all right? Because you don't want to spiral into despair or depression. You just need to be very practical, like write down the list of things that you think may have led to this kind of, the harshness of the heart, and ask yourself, what is it that I can do right now to overcome this? And you'll be surprised how that by very, very small stuff, you can actually overcome this feeling. Now, it all comes down to living with awareness. It's all about that, actually. Whatever you're going through is driving you to live with awareness. So embracing the names Al-Qarib, Al Mujib, the close and the answer of prayers, transforms daily life, encouraging believers to trust, pray persistently, and serve others with compassion. Right? So that is the kind of awareness that we need to hold on to in our lives. And Allah's constant presence is a reminder that He's always near, ready to embrace our hearts and respond to our needs with love. And the beauty of our relationship with Allah is that it is the only unconditional relationship. So if you ever think that you have an unconditional love with your partner, well, I'm sorry to say, this is not true. Right? There's no such thing. That at least this is what I believe, all right, from my perspective. There's no such thing as an unconditional relationship with a human being, right? If you're even your son or daughter, if they are consistently, deliberately, incessantly mistreating you, all right, and not only by raising their voices, but even by raising their hands, let's say, and there would be a certain limit with which you would feel that, no, I cannot take this anymore, and you would put your foot down. So there is no such thing as a complete and utter unconditional love between two humans, but there is this unconditional love between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his servants, right? This is actually represented in the way that he provides everyone. However, when we're talking about acceptance in the manner of him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, allowing that person to access paradise or to live in eternal happiness. Now, even that has conditions, right? And we all know those conditions, like believing in God, like being a Muslim, a proper one, and so on and so forth, and being a believer for sure. Now, there are certain conditions for us to actually reach that level of closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, then comes the question now, all right, so how do I nurture our relationship with Allah? How can I nurture this relationship? So, first of all, knowing Allah deeply through His divine names, and that's what we're doing, right? It is a fundamental element in our journey, spiritual journey. So, intimacy that enriches the heart and mind. As-salah, when it is done correctly, all right, is a sacred connection and spiritual fulfillment, all right? Regular heartfelt prayer nurtures this bond and provides strength through life's trials. Persistence in dua or supplication is also another way of nurturing this relationship and drawing you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, embracing divine nearness daily. So Allah's nearness is a source of, enduring comfort, strength, and hope. So our role is to seek Him with sincerity, trust in His wisdom unconditionally, and respond with action reflected in kindness and justice. This divine intimacy is an invitation to live life with unwavering faith and a heart full of gratitude, knowing He is nearer than ourselves and ready to answer our prayers. The last part of today's session is the part that I enjoy so much, which is how to live with the name that we are addressing in our session. This time it is how to live with the name of Qarib Al Mujib, the near and the answer. So first we need to understand His names, as I said. So we need to deepen our knowledge of Allah by reflecting on His names and attributes, okay? And then comes this point, which is the next one is prayer, as I said, and then you call upon Him in all situations. Now let's again closely look at the second point. call upon him in all situations. So Allah commands to call on him, especially in distress, showing that he hears and responds to all who sincerely seek him, regardless of their status. But something else, not only in distress, but also at times of of pleasure, at times of ease, we still need to call upon him. And that is the beauty, loving him and being drawn close to him and seeing him, watching him, and that he is the one who is behind everything that happens to your life, whether good or bad. I mean by bad, what we perceive as bad, because God never creates something bad as such, quote unquote. All right. It is all about how you perceive the situation. You may perceive it as bad, but it is actually the only good thing that can happen to you for you to reach a certain point that God wants you to reach. Next point is be persistent in supplication. So you never stop making dua. Persistent calling upon opens the doors to Allah's mercy and invites His assistance in forms unique and wise. But again, as I always say, please leave it up to Him to respond the way He wants, when He wants, in whichever way He wants. Now, respond to Allah by following His commands. So strive to obey Allah's guidance sincerely, seeking to live by His principles, even when we falter. So repentance is key to maintaining closeness. And that's another beautiful episode in our relationship, in our spiritual journey with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that no matter what you go through, you always have a new page turned. And the last part is you need to be kind even to others. So, serving the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is also a reflection of your understanding of those names. You need to practice patience and trust in divine timing, as we said several times. You need to separate from things that distance you from Allah, and that is very, very important. That needs some kind of awareness. You need to, because this differs from one person to another, right? So some people, maybe what actually hardened their hearts could be as simple as listening to a particular kind of music. All right. Yeah, I'm serious. All right. So there are certain types of music. Personally, I'm not against music at large, but for me, there are certain, types of music that would actually harden the heart. All right. Like, for example, the hard rock and all that stuff, okay? The kind of music that would actually make your heart incapable of, supplicating to God with this kind of piety, so to speak. Another thing is challenge doubts and emotional distance. So as we said, do not take whatever comes to your mind as facts and as a certainty, because sometimes it is from the shaitan, from Satan, that certain ideas would come wavering, like, for example, that you are distant, that you are doomed, that you are there's no way for you to, because you have done the same sin several times and the door is closed and all that. These are oftentimes, they are wiswas, meaning they are the voice of Satan, the devil. And we need to be aware of that. So do not take everything that your mind tells you for granted. Then finally, remember divine generosity. So whatever Allah gives is the best for us, whether we like it or we don't. But even if it differs from our requests, this faith nourishes spiritual contentment and hope. So as you can see, it's all about this relationship that we hope have with God. It's all about your understanding of that relationship. It's all about looking deeper into whatever that is happening in your life. It is all about deeper, seeing things from different perspectives and on different levels. Only by doing that you would be embarking on a spiritual journey that would not only draw you closer to yourself, but also to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thank you so much for joining us, and hope